to the latest episode of the High Ground Podcast. Today, we are diving into Star Wars in a historical context. If you don't know, George Lucas was a huge studier of history, and there's a lot of parallels that we're going to be seeing here with Star Wars and just other events in history. And I'm really excited. I've talked to some of these people about it. But yeah, this is going to be a great episode. So thanks for joining us here on the High Ground. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the High Ground Podcast. I am super stoked to have all of y'all here. A lot of my favorite people. St. Pat's first time. We have some returning favorites. We have my two favorite Star Wars lawyers, and yeah, we're just gonna have a lot of fun. But yeah, I want to start by we're just going to go around the room and have everyone introduce, say who are you, where can we find you and your amazing content, and then I know we kind of touched on this before, but I made a post about it and it had such awesome feedback that I just had to ask it again, especially with the Super Bowl coming up. So it's what sport or TV show or like televised event needs a Star Wars edition. Like it needs to happen in the Star Wars universe. We already saw in Attack of the Clones inside of the bar. There's a weird robot football thing happening, and I'm curious what else we might get. But yeah, I will go to Chris first.
All right. Hello, what have we here? I am Chris, aka Star Wars Lawyer. You can find me on TikTok, Twitch, and I guess YouTube, but I don't make anything on YouTube at Star Wars Lawyer. So, and then Twitter, Chris_SWL. What sport or TV show or TV event should we get a Star Wars one for? Beth and I have talked about this quite a bit, and we have also talked about this with Camilla. So you picked on me first, so I'm going to say it. Sorry, Beth.
Totally fine.
Star Wars West Wing with a Bail
Absolutely.
Organa lead.
Yes, I've
Please,
wanted that
please,
for so
I need
long.
that.
We need a more like House of Cards-esque, West Wing-esque type of Star Wars show. I would love something like that, a more in-depth look at maybe not necessarily like the Clone Wars era, but like just politics in general. It could cover like a chancellor's like term or something like that, similar to how they did Bartlett in the West Wing. It could be from the beginning of a chancellor being elected. You can see how that process really works. Like we heard Palpatine get elected, we heard him get nominated, but we could really see how it works. We could see how he deals with the other senators. We could see how he handles he or she or they handle the Senate chambers, how rowdy or peaceful it could get. It's everything parallels real life, which I'm sure we'll get to. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hijack it from you.
No,
I'm
you're
sorry.
good, man.
No, in my mind though,
time.
I'm picturing because it was Jar Jar that like suggested Palpatine, and so like I'm imagining like after that on TV, they're like Jar Jar, what were you thinking? He's like, I don't know, like this thing, I don't know, I'm just here, okay, day.
I think that's how we need to follow Chancellor Valorum's run as Chancellor, because we really know thing, and then we can see Palpatine versus Bail in Chancellor voting.
Yeah, you watch the primaries. I want to watch a Star Wars debate. I think that'd be hilarious.
Yeah, because they'll just talk about stuff like we're supposed to know what they're talking about.
Right.
Yeah. The spice trade is really messing up the Outer Rim. I agree. We're voting for. Yeah, it's like, what are you talking about? It's like, what?
Awesome. All right, and how about you, Beth?
Oh, hello, I'm Beth. You can find me at mara.j.skywalker, just on TikTok. And I am one half of the Open Circle fleet. The better half is also here at Fruko Wookie, aka Camilla. We go live and just are slightly chaotic, and it's great. We have a great time. Very fun. So I would say, okay, so my one Star Wars thing, and I don't know why I want this so badly, but I want like a Star Wars Succession, like, but with like the finance, like I want the banking clan, like I want that, but with like the stereotypical like finance bro, like I need that. That's what I need.
Okay, so we got politics and we got finance. I like it. I like it.
Throwing that out there for you.
I just started watching Succession. It's really funny. It's hysterical.
Good. It's so good.
Actually, so part of me wants though, like in Attack of the Clones, Obi-Wan goes into the bar and he sees Sleaze Begano there, and it was like, you want to go home and rethink your life. And in my mind, there's a whole Suits show inside of Star Wars, and it's Sleaze Begano.
I like it already.
Who's trying to get rid of his death sticks, and then he runs, and there's like a Harvey level person, and it's Suits, but it's Sleaze Begano.
I like that one.
Yes.
Vince says Wolf of Coruscant.
No, Van,
Oh,
it's
true.
it's the Loth Wolf of Wall Street.
There you go.
Yeah, and how about you, Josh?
Hi everybody, I'm Josh. You can call me Mace or Mesa Windu or Shithead. It doesn't really matter. Water
That
off
was
the
pronounced
rules off.
Shafid. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So the big thing you wanted was you wanted a Star Wars version of like a
Could
Can
be
you-
anything.
anything.
I mean, just
Ooh.
something that we have televised here. What would they be watching inside of Star Wars? Like, if we're gonna be watching the Super Bowl, like, do they have MCU movies inside of Star Wars? Do they have people like me running
think,
podcasts talking about fictional stuff inside of Star? I don't know.
I could see a romantic or like a romantic comedy being pretty popular in the Star Wars universe, depending. Like it'd be two like Nemoidians or something like that. And it's just like, oh my god, they're so I love it when Glup Shido is it's like you just like, all right, man. I like the idea of a Star Wars West Wing and a Star Wars Succession. They were both they were both like on at the top of my head too. So I like the idea of that too. So
No, I love it. I approve. And how about you, St. Pat?
All right. Well, I'm Pat. I'm on TikTok as Saint Pat of Starfleet with a period and an underscore somewhere in there. For me, I actually came up with two ideas, and they're both pretty goofy. So did you guys, for the first one, do you guys ever watch the Sci-Fi Channel contest Face Off about the makeup artists?
I
Oh,
have
I need a Star Wars version of that because they have the hollow disguise and all the different species body types, and just to see what all the craziness that would be because of the technology that they have and the diversity of it that they have, and
I
then
like that idea.
and then the second one would be Merlin. The show Merlin.
Yes.
Ooh.
I need a Jedi version of Merlin the people in Star Wars have put on.
Pretty good.
So it's based off of some old myth that's going around about the Jedi from before the High Republic, and they've turned it into this goofy teen drama type of show.
That would be sweet. No, I approve. For me and my answer in the past. Well, actually, I'll hit some of the people in the comments. In the comments here, because we have Brooke Bedazzler, check out Far Far Away Factory, saying Project Runway, which would be amazing.
The serves that would come from that.
Love Island.
Okay, but imagine like a Bachelor hosted by Lando Calrissian.
Yeah, that would
Oh,
work. I also like the idea of because we watch a ton of different sports. It's not just football or baseball or basketball. We watch a ton. So I was thinking maybe like a galactic version of the Olympics or something like that. Like every 5 or 6 years, it's like they all come to I don't know, Naboo or something like that, or they change planets just like they change countries every time. Like they change planets every time. Like the Winter Olympics or the Sub-Zero Olympics or whatever, since every planet could be like a permanently cold planet or a permanently hot planet. Like I like that idea too.
Yeah. Have a Fleabag style Dr. Afro show.
Ooh,
Mm.
I like that idea.
Yeah, I had my money on Jedi Vector Racing. Hell yeah.
One racing, yeah, that's a good one.
Hell
As-
yeah. I wanna
As
see
long as
that.
Vernestra isn't one of the
Yeah.
I'm
So would
just-
NASCAR be more like
Hello,
pod
Bob.
racing? Would that be more like pod racing? Or would that be more like Tour de France? You know, it's way more fast paced than Tour de France.
So just
Or like Indy cars? Like, would that be?
Kind of, yeah. Like it's a
IndyCar?
really popular sport. So I would say like it would either be like the equivalent of like either Formula One or NASCAR, but like probably a hybrid between the two. Because like you don't see a lot of like like watching like Formula One racing. They watch Dale Earnhardt, so it's like all right.
So with the mention of the Jedi Vectors, do you guys think the High Republic Jedi did like the Blue Angel shows?
Probably. Oh, that's actually a good
I can
idea.
see that. I can see
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
It's probably a regular thing.
Let's see. B Dazzler says, can Lando just be the Bachelor? So I'm gonna modify what you said. Lando is the Bachelor. It's hosted by Hondo.
That's
Oh
chaotic.
my
Done.
god!
Best show
The
ever.
show would last. Yeah, the show would last 2 episodes because everything would burn down by the end of the episode, too.
They're like, okay, we need the host to stop hitting on all the people.
Yeah, Hondo would probably just leverage like the continuation of the show with him winning. Be like, all right, look, we can continue the show, but like I gotta be the winner. So it's
Yeah.
like
It was crazy in episode 3 when all the pirates just infiltrated and kidnapped everyone. You know,
yeah. It's crazy how it's just me and Lando here. I wonder what could happen.
Oh no!
Funny how that works out, you know?
Dr. Phil show, but it's Mace Windu instead.
Oh my god. It's Mace Windu and the only
Get
guest
the
is
F over
Anakin.
it.
Yeah, it's all the people that got victimized by him. Where it's Anakin, Boba Fett. I hate you. He's like, I don't even know who you are. It's like,
you know.
wait, I remember
that's
you.
a
You're the kid
commercial.
whose dad I yopped his head off. I remember you.
There's going to be a commercial with a space lawyer that was like, "Have you been victimized by Anakin Skywalker?"
Okay.
Oh yeah.
I have
Okay.
I have that video, right? I just haven't edited it.
Okay.
Chris, you gotta do it.
Because
it.
there was some comic strip where that someone made where it's essentially like, you know, like those mesothelioma commercials, but it was for Star Wars. And I essentially I was like, oh, okay, I have to do that. So I did it. I was just like, I just want to be fancy with it. But then
I approve. But oh man, a flavor of
Oh,
love
God.
show.
Jesus.
Oh man,
That's a messy one, man.
Sorry, we can go on this all day.
I've seen a few of those episodes that can get messy.
No, my suggestion though was 90 Day Fiance, because my wife loves that show, and they're just like, hey, here's like someone you're dating from Venezuela, like try to make it work. And I don't even know how the show works, but I would love it in Star Wars, where it's like a Toydarian who gets like hooked up with a Wookiee and he's trying to like live amongst them. It was just like,
Right?
this sucks. Everything's so small.
Oh, you know what would be a really messy one? A Wookiee and a Trandoshan. Oh my god.
But is
That would
that like the oh my god, what is it? Like enemies to lovers? Is it like
Yeah,
one of those types
it's
though?
like
Either that or
that
that's
would be
Yeah.
that would be a scary one. I think the film, like the record, like the cameraman would be like a mile back. Like
that's the relationship that would
It's
get the
it's West Side Story.
Yeah, exactly. Romeo and Juliet type of thing. Except they don't like each other.
Oh man. Man, we
Because the smallest thing would piss them off. Like somebody takes the last carton of milk and it's just World War III. That's why I don't want to do this anymore, man. I told you. It's like, all right, get away from her, guys.
But
This is
man.
the actual stream, guys. It's not history.
Just-
This is actually just spitballing for another
Pitching
hour.
shows.
Listen, that
Disney,
would still
you're
be,
welcome
I
for
can
the
do a full
IP.
episode.
Exactly.
You guys have encouraged me, and that will be a full episode at some point in time.
Oh, yeah, I'm down for that. That would be a great episode.
All right, so I brought you all here today because you all are fans of history or studied history, and why? I have to, because it's not my bag, and that's one of the reasons why my notes are light on the show, because it was like I don't have the knowledge. I'm not smart enough to ask you guys the good questions to get to the meat. So I'm hoping you'll help me out with that. But what interests you about history? Why is history important? And it's free form. I'll call on someone first, just so there isn't a bunch of silence, but y'all feel free to jump in and talk. But I'm gonna go to St. Pat first.
Well, I love learning about the details, like the cultural ideology and motivations behind historical events and society in general. It's like Legos. Once you break things down and figure out what the big ideas are and the importance of a person, place, or a culture, then you can use them to build an understanding of what was happening or what this cultural society was like at that time. And once you have those pieces, you can, like Legos, you can use them to build other things up. Sorry, I'm going off my notes. I have a lot of ideas. And then so you can apply those pieces to other historical events or even today, and then you get a better understanding of the world around you. So if you like, I got my major in Egyptology, and I was taught by my mentor. She actually drilled into me man's theory of power, and it has breaks down history, analyzing into 4 critiques of power: ideological, political, economic, military, and that's 4, right? Yeah. And from there you can use those as a way to look at a culture or a history event, and then you can understand what's happening. And I've been able to, because I learned that, I've been able to relate the same instance that I saw happening in Egypt to modern day, and it helps you see the broader spectrum of what's going on and read current events, so you know what's going on, and so you don't get like tripped up by people saying other things or trying to change the perspective or the script on you. And which is why I want to be in my master's classes to become a history teacher.
That's so cool. Okay, I like it. I'm into history
Awesome.
now. How about the rest of y'all? Josh, I know you're a history major as well.
I can go next. It's cool. It's but I agree with pretty much everything Pat said. That's a lot of the reasons I love like Star Wars, like history and Star Wars. I think are intertwined. I credit history, being a history major, with like reinvigorating, I guess you could say, my interest in Star Wars, because when I was younger, like with most people, it was laser swords, like Padme was gorgeous, and General Grievous looked cool, and like R2-D2 was cute, and all that other stuff. Like it was like face value for me. Like Darth Vader looked cool, like that kind of stuff. Like the acting, I guess, was good, like, you know. But then when I started focusing on like school, Star Wars kind of like grew along with me. And I remember when I was like taking history classes and stuff like that, and they would teach me about things like how like history isn't really about like writing down and memorizing all the dates of something and recognizing what happened on this day, even though that's part of it. It's more of understanding like on these days, like why this happened, or you infer why this happened based on what you understand, based on what you recover and stuff like that, based on what you see in the news, based on old newspaper recording. Like you look at all of this other stuff. And I remember when I go back to Star Wars after doing all that in college, I was like, oh wow, like, is this a reference to that? Is that a reference to this? is it actually a reference to like World War II, or is it something deeper than that? And that's when I started looking into like, what was George Lucas's inspiration for that? What was the inspiration for that? Like, it wasn't just, you don't just pull something that extravagant like completely from scratch. You took some kind of inspiration from it. And so when he would say things like how the Galactic Republic or the Galactic Civil War between the Empire and the Rebellion, like at face value, you kind of look at it and you say like, oh, like Nazi Germany and the Allies, right? And you're like, well, aesthetically, sure, definitely, they definitely have some aesthetic similarities, but and then he comes out and goes, no, it's America and Vietnam. You're like, oh, I really see it now. And so when you go in and when somebody says that to you, you go, okay, that makes sense, because and then he goes like, he'll say something along the lines of like, Palpatine, even though he's not a one-for-one caricature of him, I envisioned Nixon. You go, oh, that makes even more, like, I see why you did that. Like, I see how that kind of comes together. Or when they say like, what if or when Padme goes, sorry, I don't want to hog up too much time, but like when Padme goes like, what if the democracy we're fighting for no longer exists? Like, what if everything we're doing is in defense of a way of governmenting and governing that doesn't exist anymore because the Republic is an empire in all but name now? You go, oh my gosh, like this is like textbook like study of like authoritarianism and all this, and you're like, oh my god, like there's so many examples of that happening in history. And so when that happened and that clicked for me, I not only became a bigger history buff, but I ironically became a bigger Star Wars fan, because I was like, oh, I want to see more of those kinds of parallels. I think that's really cool. But yeah, that's pretty much mine.
I love it. Awesome. All right, how about you, Beth?
Oh man. Okay, so I too was a history major back in the day, before I went the whole law route. And
Nice.
so I actually, yes, good time, she said, having filled a lot of hours this week. And so I had like kind of a different study of history. I studied intellectual history, but colonial intellectual history, so very niche. And I think that it's fascinating because it's just really, really interesting, because you take a piece of media and you can look at it either on like a meta level or just like as a reflection of society, but you can really see like the transitive ideologies of the time period, and what was going on, not just in the world, but it's fascinating to see that in universe as well. And I think like, and it's one of my favorite examples is like the idea of like the concept of villains throughout the different Star Wars eras, because in obviously the original trilogy, we have a very kind of specific villain.
Right.
In the prequel trilogy, we have one that's very reflective of that time period, big corporations, evil, etc. And then for the sequel trilogy, we have Kylo Ren, who is the stereotypical kind of overly violent white boy. Let's just put it that way. Which is
the alt-right
the villain.
You're not wrong.
Right? I'm like, how do I put this nicely? But it's interesting.
Oh no, you just say it at this point. Very accurate.
We all see it. Just say it.
Yeah.
You name it.
Right, and don't get me wrong, I love him as a character, and I love the sequel, so definitely no sequel slander, but that's like something fascinating to me. So that was my historical journey.
Awesome. Oh man, like you guys are already just giving me stuff I'm gonna have to like go comb through this once.
Oh dude, we'll literally be here all night if you let us.
Oh man.
I mean, I got a supply of Mandalorian caffeine tea, and so I'm good to go all night.
Outstanding.
Well, it's like BTR just says, love hearing smart people talk about their smart people shit. It's soothing. But oh man, yeah. Last but certainly not least, Chris, what got you started down his history lane?
So I think it was my history teachers in high school. I guess they saw I had an affinity for it, and they sort of like pushed me to do more. And I guess I signed up for AP classes, but it's more they signed me up for AP classes. But I think one of the things so I was raised in a musical household, and one of the things that, like my dad raised me on was Motown. And so if you listen to Motown, the history of the time period informs the music. And so when I look at art and things, like my brother's a filmmaker, so you look at the different movies across the past 50 years, what was going on at the time informs what happened. And just seeing like the different dominoes of how A affects B affects C affects D, and that's how we got where we are today is something that I always find interesting. It's like a puzzle. And like, for an example, so we all know about prohibition in the United States, right? And so before prohibition, about 30 to 40% of the United States income, the government's federal income, came from taxation on alcohol sales. And so when prohibition was when prohibition advocates wanted to get that to go into effect, what they did was draft legislation for a federal income tax, because we already had local income taxes, but the federal income tax was meant to circumvent that lost revenue from alcohol sales. And then obviously like 13 years later, prohibition was repealed, but we still have the federal income tax.
Interesting.
And it's all
Wonder
because
why it's still there.
right, and it's all because people didn't want people to drink for a variety of reasons.
Man, I just now I don't want to study history because it just makes me hateful.
No, this is cool, man. Like as I show you millions of words, and it's like, isn't this awesome? Isn't this cool? Like you don't want to spend your
also-
next 30 years of your life understanding this one particular thing?
Also, I want to do a quick shout out to Chris's brother, because he is a filmmaker, has a movie. It's called Life Ain't Like the Movies.
Oh,
Definitely recommend going ahead and giving it a check. Checking it out. It's
absolutely.
a quirky black teenager coming of age type story. So, Life Ain't Like the Movies. Small
It's a
film.
It's a great movie.
Check it out.
I
Check
like
it
the
out.
title. Very good title.
Yeah, if I can splurge a little bit about it. So my brother got started writing that movie based off of the quote that is in the movie, and he had the quote, and so he just wrote the movie around it. And it's the quote is I'm a near quote it, but it's like, life ain't like the movies, kid. It's tough. It's like it's hard, but there are going to be beautiful moments, and you need to hold on to those moments because those will get you through the rough times. So it's Paul Bates is in it from Coming to America, if you've seen that. Cinda
What?
Williams is in it from Mo Better Blues.
Shoot. I need to check that out then. I love both of their work.
Yeah, so it's on Amazon Prime. I think it's free now, and also on Tubi and a few other places.
Sure.
Beautiful.
Nice.
Yep, we appreciate them, and it's Black History Month, so we're appreciating Black filmmakers.
Absolutely.
Yeah, awesome. All right, so we kind of got how you guys are interested in it. Now, next question, lightning round. Before we jump into the meat, what historical figure do we have that needs to be placed into Star Wars, and what does that look like? I gotta go to Beth first.
Oh man. Okay, see, this is God. My initial reaction was Salmon P. Chase, but I'm like, I don't have the time. Like, you guys don't want to hear why. Trust me, because it is very boring. Very boring. So I'm gonna go with the classic. I'm gonna go with like an Abraham Lincoln. Like I mean, yeah, with the hat. Chris has the hat.
What? I don't know what you're talking about.
But yeah, we want like the good orator. But yeah, I think that'd be a very fascinating character to see, because we haven't really had anybody who's like a direct. We've had aspects of his character, I think, but it'd be very fascinating to see somebody who is a leader, but also very human and flawed in some very problematic ways as well. I like the holistic version of a person. So
That's history right there. You understand all facets of them.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a big thing. People are not perfect, and so there's a lot of these people. But it's like it really varies on the time. Also, if you, I know this feels extra nerdy, But who was the first person you mentioned? I want to look him up.
Oh, okay, Salmon P. Chase. I can send you a couple recs if you would like some books. So he's a very very boring individual, but we love him. So I'll send you some recommendations.
Also, feel free, and anyone here, if you don't have time to make TikToks and tag me in them, because I wanna dive into this stuff. But yeah, how about you, Chris? Who you going with?
I'm going with Fred Hampton Sr.
Ooh,
Yeah,
I like that one.
as I was
Black
thinking
Panthers.
yeah,
Yes,
because
sir.
for a variety of reasons, Fred Hampton was only 21 when he was murdered, but he made such an impact on the city of Chicago, uniting different marginalized peoples and even some non-marginalized people, just people that just felt down on their luck, and he built a community through community service. And the Black Panthers are demonized for reasons that they shouldn't be, but I think to see someone in the Star Wars universe that would be able to, at such a young age, to rally people through, the symbol of a brotherhood, not just brotherhood of one race, but brotherhood of a people, and just to be able to have that impact, and then hopefully, just see that character actually be able to live out their life and the impact that they could have on the world.
And one of the great things about Fred Hampton, and I think he helped push forward this idea further. He didn't coin it, but I think he popularized it amongst a lot of leftists and a lot of civil rights activists, that a lot of the strife in this country, it's less, not to say that there isn't race involved, but it's more of a class issue when it becomes like where the solutions are. Like that's what I meant to say. Like when you're looking for the solutions for something like that, the solution isn't like the solution is more complicated than just kumbaya, all hold hands. Like there is systemic, like it's not just like the Lyndon Johnson said this, where and Lyndon Johnson is a very complicated character, but he also said a lot of banging ass quotes, so I'll use this, and I think it's a very accurate one. He said, I believe he said, and this is paraphrasing, he said, if you convince the lowest white man that he's better than the lowest black man, they'll never realize that you're picking their pocket while you're telling them that. And it's pretty much him saying like, oh, as long as you keep telling this person that they will always be better than this other person because of the color of their skin, they're not going to realize that we're all broke. Like we're all broke as hell. So, because once everybody realizes that, then it's game over for a lot of those games that a lot of big corporations and governments try and go for. So I think Fred Hampton is like, that's why he resonates with me. Because a lot of people can say like, oh, you kind of get ready to roll your eyes when somebody says it's not a race issue. You're like, okay, buddy, here we go. But then when they go, it's a class issue, you're like, yes, actually, no, exactly. So like, it's kind of a deeper understanding of the racial issues in America and in the world. And once you understand that, which I think Fred Hampton like got it more so than most people, especially in that time period. I think he could be a very special character that heavily inspires a Star Wars character with a kind of similar trajectory.
Okay.
I love Fred Hampton. Have you guys seen Judas and the Black Messiah?
I have not seen it yet.
If you guys have HBO Max, check that out. It's a really good. It's about Fred Hampton, so it's a really good movie.
Phenomenal film.
Chris, could you after this Discord him the name, because he's definitely someone I have to read up on. I'm trying to expand more into that side of history a lot more.
I got you.
Dang. Okay. Awesome. I love it. We also have a lot of suggestions here in the chat. Pedro
Campos. I like that one. Good one.
And there's another one, but I can't find it. I love it. So, okay. So Josh, are you also going with Same person, same recommendation.
Oh, I guess like my explanation kind of no. I mean, like just for the sake. I mean, it's not. It's less like it's less recent. I like the idea of because like I never heard of like a, at least in Star Wars canon, like I don't think we focus too much like on a like a conqueror or like a really big political figure being inspired, like somebody like Julius Caesar or Alexander the Great, or who was the one in Germania? Germania. Was it Charlemagne? I think it was
Charlemagne.
Charlemagne the yeah, or Cyrus the Great. Like I have always been like inspired by, or at least I've wanted really badly to see kind of a parallel with somebody like Julius Caesar. Palpatine, you can make an argument like on some levels. You're like, okay, like he's certainly taking control of the government, like Caesar was getting ready to do. But like I meant like militarily, like you want somebody who's like known as like this legendary general and commander, not known for like fighting, you know, like the Confederacy of Independent Systems, but like known for taking over big swaths of the galaxy or something like that, and seeing how he manages that empire. I think a Star Wars character on the level of somebody like Alexander the Great would be very intriguing.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah, that would be. I mean,
that would be a great storyline for like early core stories, like how the Food and Conqueror for the first territorial gains of the core worlds in the Republic.
Okay. What about you, St. Pat?
These three, I have three, but they're kind of a group for the storyline. I was thinking about, I want a Star Wars version of Vladimir Lenin, Leon Trotsky, and Joseph Stalin, and I want them to be separatist senators, and this takes place before Attack of the Clones, and it's all about the formation of the separatists in CIS. Because if you know me, I'm kind of obsessed with the separatist perspective of the Clone Wars, and I want Lenin and the Lenin and Trotsky character to be really idealists about the separatist stuff, and then Stalin, of course, is the power-hungry character that gets recruited by Dooku to help sway an important bill or writing of the Constitution. That way, Dooku has the power that he needs to, and so they have to go off and do something. The Lenin character has an accident; he's either killed or just like helping, and then it's a power struggle between the Trotsky and Stalin power, and then power character, and then the Trotsky character either is killed or somehow is blackmailed to leave the separatists, and so you just left with the Stalin character, and he's a senator, an influential senator in the separatist Senate, but also like secretly a part of the separatist council and part of the military.
I think you could turn that into a really compelling story, and I think wouldn't it be really cool? I like that idea, Pat. Wouldn't it be really cool if like it started out as like, because like we all know that like the core value of the separatist movement, like the people of the separatist movement, like they have legitimate grievances for the Republic. Like the Republic is really crappy to them. Because isn't like the whole thing about it, refresh my memory, isn't the whole thing about the separatist movement that like they're getting really salty that like the Republic is essentially neglecting them? And they're like, look, like we have no money. Yeah, the outer rim, like we have no money. We don't have any really sense of like powerful representation in the Senate, and so
keep going.
People who do have the ones that are representative in the Senate are from like the core worlds, which are historically the more wealthy worlds, like Alderaan, Naboo, Coruscant itself, like all these massively rich and wealthy planets that probably make more money exploiting the outer rim planets, or putting their factories, or putting their putting their like military campaigns. Like, did you notice that almost all of the Clone Wars, most of the Clone Wars is fought in the outer rim? Like there is no like other than the Coruscant siege, which took them by surprise in Episode 3. Like almost every battle we see, if you look at the planet that they're on, they're like, oh damn, like that's all the way out there. that's a boon. That's like a boonies planet. Like that's not a
Because if you
relatively and so I think what they could do is they could start off having those legitimate grievances, much like Stalin, Lenin, Trotsky, that kind of dynamic. And you could honestly start to feel for them, and you're like, damn, they could really make change. And then you realize that, oh wait, this is a prequel. We know what happens to them. And so and then it starts going downhill, and their message gets hijacked by somebody who is part of their movement but never had any intention of making any real change. The entire goal was to put Palpatine on the throne as emperor. So they don't realize, tragically, that they're in the middle of this grand conspiracy. Their entire message was used as a farce in order to get Palpatine more power. So I think that could have massive parallels to the real world.
It would just be, it would just be awesome how it's showing you how a movement can start as something wholesome, and then just how real world attitudes and realities come in. It just gets corrupted, and you gives a different voice to the people you don't want to have the voice to. And I think that's something that we kind of need to talk about, especially in today's climate.
Yeah. Damn, I really
think it'd
want
be-
this show to happen now. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh, no. I think it'd be fascinating too, because we know that canonically, or at least in the Star Wars propaganda book, Dooku had like a whole lecture series. And I think that would be fascinating to get the separatist like narrative along with that kind of storyline that you were describing. Like, that's such a good, like, Pat, how do we at Disney for Pat's show? Like,
Right? Yeah. We need like a back channel guy. Like, get Daniel Jose Older to be like, yo, I need you to give this message to Kathleen Kennedy. Like,
because we get the view of the Clone Wars from the Republic, and because it's from the Republic, we get Palpatine's propaganda and his messing with the nationalism, and so our view of the Separatists is skewed. And because of Dooku, the entire military of the Separatists is mercenaries. There's no one in the military or in control of the military that actually believes in the Separatist dream or ideals. And so you get the war criminals that are in charge of the droid army.
Yeah, like Grievous is like this scary big robot cyborg leading this army of emotionless robots that are like, they do that stuff on purpose to make it seem like the Separatists don't have a soul. And that, like, Clone Wars kind of touched on it with Lux Bontari's mom. Ahsoka meets Lux Bontari and his mom. Like, they touch on it, but I wanted them to go even deeper. I'm like, I didn't want like a simple like, oh, both sides are bad. I'm like, no. I want you to understand that like their grievances are legitimate. They're just getting screwed over right now. Like there's like an actual narrative going against them that is ruining their chances of making any serious like headway into making their worlds better.
So I'm trying to map out the Separatist government structure, and just because I told you it's a obsession. I tweeted it about like at midnight one time, just thinking about the Constitution, and I put the Separatist Senate in the concept I call the bubble of good intentions. Like, however the Constitution ended out, the Senate is there. They're thinking they're making things, but they really have no control of anything over the war, even though they think they do.
Yeah, it's interesting because in the grand scheme of things, it's well, I mean, we'll just jump into the next part of this.
Sorry.
Oh no,
well,
this is amazing.
This
the most engaged I've been in a while.
I mean, I know I put the original trilogy first, but why don't we switch it up and go in chronological order, because that feels fitting considering where we just ended on, because a lot of what the separatists are espousing like is the downsides of colonialism, and like, hey, we aren't close to the core, so we get screwed all the time, and it's a real issue. Like, please help us. And then the core was like, what we're gonna do is turn into an empire instead.
And all that stuff you're dealing with since we're an empire now that doesn't answer to the Senate, it's going to be about 100 times worse. We'll just drop all of our trash on your planet now, and it'll just be like, okay, all right, cool.
Yeah. So, what are the parallels that you guys see in the prequel trilogy? What jumps out at you guys the most?
This is the 2-hour segment, right?
I'm gonna leave the American Civil War parallel for Pat because I know we've talked about that. I know he's got a lot on that, so I'm gonna leave that for him. But for me, the parallels are Bush administration in one, but the rise of fascistic evil amid democratic complacency.
Mhm.
And I think even though this came out like, 10, 15 years before, you can see how in the midst of globalization, the rise of nationalism in democratic societies and the securities and freedoms they're willing to give up to make sure that their traditional quote unquote way of life is maintained and that they are not quote unquote erased. And I think that one of the things that a lot of people have put in like the founding fathers videos that I did was like the founding fathers would be aghast at all the freedoms we've given up for security. And I think that there are some legitimate complaints there with, the amount of freedom we give up, but there's also a world that they could have never have foreseen with just the technology that we have now. But I think when you have certain lines this is how liberty dies with thunderous applause, and that's evident, like George Lucas has talked about, that was evident for the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan and how we all cheered post 9/11 because the government came out and told us like, hey, these are the bad guys, right? And here's the evidence. Evidence was wrong. Evidence was fake. However you want to slice it. But we went full force into, Iraq and Afghanistan, and we just got out of Afghanistan 20 years later, in a war that we didn't really win. So back home, things look entirely different 20 years from now and you could look at the prequels. The Republic looks different in the Phantom Menace than it does in Revenge of the Sith before it even becomes the Empire. And so that came as a part of the leadership that was in charge and the freedoms and securities that they sort of trampled over democracy that they were willing to give up so that their way of life could be maintained.
Dang.
Wow. Yeah, me too. Plus one. Yeah, me too. No, seriously. No. I mean, if I could go next, because I
go for it. Jump into it.
One of you mentioned the like American military and post 9/11. The Clone Wars, I think, pushed me, and I mean, this is history and politics or political views really do go hand in hand, because if you know your history, you know how shit goes. And so like one of the things that I think the Clone Wars did for me was make me realize like, damn, why in the everlasting hell was I such a rah-rah patriot whenever they said they were sending like 8,000 more troops over to the Middle East? It's like, finally I asked the question, like, what are we doing there? Like what are we doing there anymore? And I would watch episodes like the Clone Wars, and it makes me realize like, oh, the Galactic Republic, like, yeah, like you see the image of like the Galactic Republic. We're keeping you safe. We're doing this. We're doing that. But then you get to like the actual people, like when Anakin and Ahsoka and Aayla Secura crash land on this neutral planet, and they're like, we're here to, and he's like, get the hell off my planet. Like, you guys are going to bring all of the bad stuff over here. There's a reason we didn't get in this war in the first place. Like, I don't want you guys over here. Go away. And it made me realize like, oh damn, like not necessarily that we're the like Americans are the baddies per se, but like there is more, like even more so than gray area. It's more of a like a blanket over what ends up being like a really unforgiving machine of, like you said, nationalism, propaganda, The idea that like every single war that the United States fights in is a just war. It's like, really? Like is every single battle you fight in the Clone Wars, like is every single battle, every single war you fight in the Clone Wars, is that a justified war, or are you making it seem like it is because of certain things that come into play? So I think that made me realize that more so than anything. That's one of the biggest parallels, I think, the American military and the Galactic Republic.
Yeah. Damn. Okay. I have a serious question to ask y'all. Because I feel like we could spend the entire night just on like the prequels era.
Yeah.
And that's why I was like, I'm not equipped for like to be the host of this conversation. So I love that y'all letting me do so. My question is, what if we did exactly that, and then I had you guys come back in like 4 to 5 weeks, same panel, and we
Just
moved
the
on
prequel
to the
too?
original,
Yeah.
and then I had the same panel come back in like 4 weeks from there, and we did the sequels.
Yeah, dude. I'm ready for
You
that
know,
one in like
amazing.
5 hours.
Yeah,
Bro.
that'd be so cool.
That one's gonna be like 5 hours, bro. I'm ready for that one. The
All
extended.
right.
All right,
So
time to break out this bad boy.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
okay, so it's official. This episode is fully just politics of the prequel eras.
Okay.
And so feel free to dive in deeper, because I was like looking at time. It was like, oh, there ain't no way in hell.
Yeah, I was looking at the time too. I'm like, bro, by the time it hits 10, we're gonna be on episode 2. The beginning of episode 2. Like,
And Montgomery here in the chat. I've been watching things, stuff you're saying. Yeah, feel free to reach out to me, and we'll talk, and we'll see about because I love the perspectives. I want to see what people think. But yeah, let's keep going.
Yeah.
Pat, I know you got something in the chamber right now.
Yeah. Okay. So I've talked to you, and I ranted to Chris about this. But I've always read the Clone Wars as a beautifully mastered, twisted framing of the American Civil War. And that's what I love about Star Wars and its historical parallels. It doesn't give you they don't dictate how the stories go. It picks a historical event or place or people, and then it frames the story in that. And so you get the emotion and the academic intelligence from that thing, but the characters get to be themselves and get to live in the events. But yeah, so I, for the longest time, have been saying that even though we call the Republic, and the Separatists the Confederacy, that it's actually really, in the historical parallel, the Republic is the Confederacy of America, of the United States, and the Confederacy of Independent Planets is the Republic from the Union. And it's just because if you look at events, the Republic acts like the Confederates. They're the first. Yes, we see the Separatists planning and preparing for a war, but they never actually attack. The Republic is the first to attack the Separatists in the Attack of the Clones, and they attack the Foundry, which can be like the fort. In the Civil War. I don't remember the fort's name. You think I would remember the fort's name?
Fort Sumter.
Or
Thank
Sumter.
you.
Yeah.
That one's embedded in my brain. I learned. I was like, oh my gosh, bro. Fort Sumter was the one that was like, all right, cool, good job.
All
Well,
history majors are like, oh.
Right. Right. They're like, 1861, right? Yeah, that's the one. That's the one.
The Civil War, as I learned it as a young schoolboy in Georgia, the War of Northern Aggression.
Yeah. You know, I actually got a question wrong on purpose on a history test in middle school, I think, because they asked me. They were like, what caused the Civil War? And it was multiple choice. And it was like slavery. And I was like, yeah. States' rights. I'm like, states' rights and slavery are the same thing. So I can select both of them at the same time and I'd be right. And I selected slavery because of course it is. And I remember getting that question wrong and I was so proud. And I was like, oh yeah, I'd get that wrong all day. Like, cause like there's like a running meme where it's like in elementary, middle, and high school, you go, no, in elementary and middle school, you go, oh, it's about slavery. Then you get to like late middle school and high school, oh, it was about states' rights. Then you get to college, oh, it was about slavery. So you go right
States'
back
rights to do
oh, yeah.
what? Own
Yeah.
slaves.
And I never asked them that question, like states' rights to do what? Like, did we just happen to be slaves too while that was going? It's like what? Like, what are you talking about? South Carolina had like a fever dream when Abe Lincoln got elected, and they sorry to get on this tangent, but like they had like a panic attack when Abe Lincoln got elected. They had a panic attack and dipped out like almost immediately after. And in their like separation like documents, they listed slavery. What was it, like 60 something times? Nah, states' rights, bro. Gotcha. Cool. Wow.
Yeah.
We have some dissent in here. The first fort attacked in Civil War was in Mississippi. For some people, it was the first one that had to be answered. I don't know anything about that. But I would like to hear it at some point. So me and you talking about that.
Yeah, but back to the analogy, and so you have George framing you intentionally, at least how I'm reading, he's intentionally framing the sides, so we know which sides is good and which side is bad and which side we should be rooting for, and we root for the Republic of the most because it has the Jedi, and but also they have the Jedi, and if you look at the American Civil War, the Confederacy and the Republic were very dichotomy on the military power. The Union had to scramble to get leaders and generals, while the Confederacy, they're the ones that have the trained military tacticians, military learners, and in the Clone Wars, you see the Republic having the Jedi as the generals, which you can see the ultimate training in being warriors. And then also they have the academies where Yularen and I cannot speak today. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, Admiral Yularen. Yeah.
Yeah, and Tarkin come from, and so there's that parallel there. And then of course the Republic uses clones, which is slave labor.
Yeah, it's just not the best.
It's kind of interesting how like in universe they never really kind of, I don't know, like focus too much on the fact that they didn't really have a choice. Like they always like Rex says like, oh, like, well, this is all we really know, so without it I guess we wouldn't exist. It's a very complicated dynamic where they're like he's like, all right, like sure, we wish that war never happened, that like we're soldiers, we're supposed to protect everybody, but like at the same time, like we wouldn't exist if this hadn't have happened, so I guess you kind of just roll with the punches when you can, like prepare for peace, like, or hope for peace, prepare for war type of thing.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, well, one thing I think is interesting is in the book Clone Wars Stories of Light and Dark, Yoda briefly mentions that, because that book largely retells things that happen in the Clone Wars that we watch, but it's from a specific person's perspective. And so we get some extra tidbits and things like that, as well as an entirely new story at the end. It's really interesting. But anyways, they retell the first episode of the Clone Wars, and with Yoda and the clones that he's with, and how he sees them all differently in the Force. And then he just casually mentions how people in the Senate are trying to block legislation for clones to have rights and stuff like that. He just glosses over that real quick, and I was like, the hell, like,
yeah,
can we go back? And he's like, yeah, but we're fighting a battle, so
no, we want you to die for us now. Like, yeah.
No, so like, yeah, they don't think of them as people, so like, I see them all individually, but like no one else does, and you're just like, that's so sad.
Yeah. And they just willingly because it's in their because they're trained to do that, they're so willing and prepared to die and fight and risk their lives, and they have no idea. They're like, bro, I'm 10 years old. I'm 10 years old and I've spent the first 5 years in a tank. What am I supposed to do? It actually, the more I think about it, it's actually making me really sad, because it's these dudes, where do the Kaminoans, the Kaminoans, should be on trial for ethics. My God, they're yeah, we're so proud of this batch. You're like, bro, what? I have a heartbeat. Excuse you? It's just yikes, man. Damn.
I got to ask a question from Benali here. Do you think George Lucas's historical illusion can be considered commentary when so many of them relies on negative racial stereotypes?
Absolutely.
Point. Yes, I would say yes. I would say yes.
It's you don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. There's
as historians, it is our job to point out, look, yeah, that's problematic, but you also have to acknowledge the how true this statement is as well. You can't look at something and say you can't invalidate a point that somebody makes because they also said something else that was bad. It doesn't make what they say any less true. So I would argue that even though Watto, Jar Jar, what's another one?
The Neimoidians.
There's a few. The Neimoidians is a big one. There's quite a few, George. I love you, but there's quite a few. And so I look at those and I go, yeah, probably not something that I would consider in good taste. Read the room, please. But at the same time, it's he's right.
I still think about times where he has characters the reason that Stasali exists is because he thought no one would notice.
Yeah, Adigalia and Stas Ali. He's oh yeah, just call him a different character. It's okay.
And then those they won't look the same, and he's but they're black. And he's
yeah, and Eth Koth and Agent Kolar, they're oh, just make him a completely different Jedi. You're all right, cool.
All right, it's his cousin now. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, it's yeah, they're related. Okay, all right. There's a whole species of them, but they're related. Those two in specific are related.
There's a video on a parallel that I have been having trouble wording and thing because for the Phantom Menace, because it really stands out the negative stereotypes of the Neimoidians in the Phantom Menace. I'm I don't know how, as being me, to get that across without drawing on that thing. So
it's a tough subject.
I know that Barriss Offee is she's designed, she's coded, she's what was the correct terminology? She's Muslim coded. She works with the hijab and all of that. And then when they show the arc where she bombs the Jedi Temple, it's I don't know, you go yeah, okay, all right.
Mm-hmm.
The worst part is she was Muslim coded a long time ago, and you knew she was Muslim coded from the beginning.
Yeah.
And then when the payoff happens, you're
who decided to make Barriss Offee the one to blow up the Jedi Temple? And look, what the sad part about it is that when they arrest her and they bring her up to proclaim her the actual traitor, she comes out and speaks probably the most fire ass condemnation of the Galactic Republic ever.
Mm-hmm.
And you go well, then why would you from a narrative standpoint, why would you use her? Why would you make that analogy and then use her, specifically her, to bomb somebody? It's oh dude, you can't come out and say the America I know isn't here anymore and blah 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 blah, and you're wow, that's so true. They're like, yeah, I'm so glad we made the Muslim bomb. It's like, come on, bro, really? Like, I love Dave Filoni, and I don't know if it was entirely his decision, but like,
I don't believe it was. They actually, the story group was going to have her kill herself by she having ingested bombs herself, and Dave Filoni was like, "No, absolutely not. Immediately, no. That didn't happen. No, shut up. No." That was the original plan. But
they were gonna make her a suicide bomber.
Yeah.
Oh.
But like Naboo is a case study in colonialism, but given how the Gungans are depicted, the audience isn't meant to be sympathetic towards them. And the same thing can be said towards the Tuskens in Attack of the Clones. And you see, someone on Twitter was like, "Oh, Book of Boba Fett makes me like feel weird about Anakin slaughtering those Tuskens," and you're like,
it should.
That is?
Right.
It took you. That came out in 2002. That was 10 years ago. You didn't
It was like
think
15
him chopping
years ago.
like the heads of like women and children?
Like,
That
I gotta give
feel weird.
I gotta give Lucas credit for like at least that. Like, it's established that that's a bad thing to do. Like, I don't know. Like I if anything, it was established when he killed an entire village of people that wasn't something to be like celebrated or be okay with. Like, it literally when he talks about how he killed them, it literally plays Darth Vader's theme quietly in the background. So that's all you need to know. They're like, okay, this isn't meant to be like this redeeming quality of Anakin. It's supposed to be a red flag. So the audience is supposed to go, somewhere in there is the Darth Vader in the suit that I know. And you go, okay, all right, these are where his issues are. And so when people came out and like the Tusken Raiders, like, and I heard rumblings about it when they show up in the Mandalorian seasons, but I didn't really hear it get bad until, like, go figure, Boba Fett like bonded with them. Like, you gave them character. Now all of a sudden, like, people came out of the woodwork going, why does it always have to be? It's like, what do you like, bro? Are you kidding me? Like, oh, they're savages. It's just like, holy shit, bro. Like, all right, John Smith. All right, Christopher Columbus. Like, what's going on here, man? You need to talk. We may need to go back to history class. Like, seriously.
Yeah.
I think going back to, well, there are a couple of things I want to get to. Going back to what Benali was saying about colonialism and the Gungans, I don't necessarily agree that they weren't depicted sympathetic. Like, they were depicted as comedic. And maybe at that point you're not supposed to take them too seriously, but I don't think other than that, like, they're showing to have this, technologically advanced society. The city everything about Naboo is beautiful, and they didn't change that when you got to the Gungan city, but they made them kind of bumbling fools because that was the caricature they were going for. And then when you make Jar Jar the face of that, and then Jar Jar is essentially the key to the fall of the Republic in securing Chancellor the Emergency Powers, like, that's not necessarily condemning the whole race, but when that's the sole member of the race that we see, it's kind of like, okay.
Yeah. Complete with their speech pattern. Like, it's like we said doing, like, it's like, come on. Like, I'm not saying that it's like blatantly like, oh, I'm like, I was never like, I would consider offended, but it was something that I always know. I'm like, who are the Gungans supposed to be based off of? Even as a kid, I was like, who are they supposed to be like inspired by? Because like I'm getting like major like Caribbean like islander like and so as I get older and everybody's like, does anybody? I'm like, yes,
I saw commentary being made that the ears, some people were liking it to dreadlocks, and then
and then when the in the Lego Star Wars games, when the Jar Jar could do a double jump and he could jump really high, I was just like, man, I'm feeling a kind of way about this.
Hey, but he could swim.
True. Beth.
Oh, I'm sorry, Beth. I want to point this out. Like, Beth, I don't mean to like. If I talked over you at any point, like I apologize. Like I don't want to like.
No, oh my god.
Okay, I'm just making sure. Like I
You
always
guys-
need to be.
no.
I need to be like aware of that kind of stuff. Like I want to give everybody a chance to talk, and I get really amped up when it comes to this kind of stuff. So it's like, I apologize if I have. So
No, oh my god, no, it is all good. It is all good. No, it's fascinating. I'm like sitting here just listening. It's amazing. All my favorite stuff being talked. I mean, not my favorite subject matter. That sounds bad, but like history. There we go. That's what I was trying to say. Something that I haven't seen, or that I find fascinating about the prequel trilogy is that I feel like it's such a great allegory for the rise of capitalism, and giving corporations agency, legal personhood, and how that contributes to the fall. I guess basically the fall of democracy, for lack of a better word. And I think we do see this. And it's so funny because when you're younger, you like hate the whole like trade federation, like tax plot of the Phantom Menace.
Right.
And then when you're older, you're like, oh, this is actually really fascinating.
so
as far as a
interesting.
metaphor. Yeah. But it's really fascinating.
I found it funny. Like I remember like when I got older and went back to Star Wars and I would watch and like in episode 1, for example, and in one of the Clone Wars episodes, like for the Clone Wars example, like the Kaminoans had a Senate seat. And I was like, huh? I was like, hold on. And they're like, oh, well, we feel like since we provide our product, we should have a say in like, governmental affairs. And then you look at episode 1, and when they accuse the Trade Federation of like holding Naboo hostage, essentially, the Cato Nemoidia senator is speaking on behalf of the Trade Federation. And it's like, why is there a senator going up to bat for like a corporation? And he's like demanding, like he's like, and like I love how like it gets caught up in like bureaucracy and all that stuff. Like it's so accurate to real life when you go like, I have this issue and I'm gonna bring it to the Senate and they're gonna help me. And you're like, we're literally getting invaded. And they go, no proof, committee needs to be assembled, reconvene in 3 months. You're like, what? Hold on. Like, what? All right,
They're dying right now.
Padme, I think Queen Amidala was absolutely right to be like, you know what, bro? Like, even though you could say like that played right into Palpatine's hands because he wanted Valorum to get removed. Like, that was how he became Chancellor. Like, Amidala, you would say made a bad decision there, or it like catalyst decision there, but like you could understand her anger there because she's like, he's like, oh, okay, well I guess I can't do anything about it. Queen Amidala, after getting yelled at by these 2 senators, could we just send a committee and just see what's going on? Like she'd be like, no, maybe you shouldn't be here anymore. like seriously.
I don't even think the decision was bad, just for the simple fact, like, okay, Chancellor Valorum, we get into opening crawl. He sent for the Jedi to go out there, right? You get Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan out there. Do you ask for their perspective? No. For me, that's like incompetence. Like you sent 2 people to do a job and you didn't do it. Like Valorum's a nice guy, but he also allowed himself to be played.
Yeah, it's fast.
Oh, so I keep going back.
Oh no, sorry. I was just gonna say it really gets into an interesting question that I think we haven't seen explored in Star Wars, I guess, on a political level, which is I guess like authority of jurisdiction, because as Josh was saying, like you have the Kaminoans who have a Senate seat, you have like the Techno Union, you have the banking clan, but they have seats in both the Republic and in the Separatist Senate, and even in the Confederate and in the neutral systems. And you're like, how does this work? And then if you look at the individual places, you're like, oh my God, the banking clan has its own police force and its own legal system. And then you're like, but it has to operate within the Republic. It's just like there's so many of these nuanced layers when you keep digging. You're like, oh my God.
And it blew my mind too when I watched the one of the Lost episodes like that came out after the Clone Wars got canceled, the Scipio arc. They came out and said that they lent money to the Separatists and the Republic, and I'm like, bro, this is
at
like
different rates.
at different
Yes.
rates. And then Dooku was, I'm sorry, I'm yelling. And Dooku was like, hey, I want you
You're
to
all
raise the
good.
rates. Like Dooku's like, I want you to raise the rates on the Republic. And that was a calculated move on Dooku's part. Remember, he's playing both sides. He's like almost in on the plan like Palpatine is, almost on the level of Palpatine. He wants them to raise the rates specifically on the Republic so that the banking clan or the banking clan, right, Scipio,
Yeah.
can get vilified. And they can easily say, see, they're raising rates on them, but they're not raising rates on the separatists. And that's why they willingly, the Senate, in a standing ovation, literally hands Palpatine one of the last major things that could possibly stop him or hinder him from having absolute power. They give him the economy. And it's like, bro, in standing ovation, he's like, and all he has to do is say, I promise I'll give it back when it's all over. And they go, oh, dude, wow. In
Yeah.
tears, just, oh my God, bro. Oh my God.
Oh, going back to what I was
I'm sorry.
I don't want talking over anyone if somewhere we're going. Am I good to
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
So
Yeah,
going
please-
back to
please go.
the theories of series of power that I talked about earlier. So there's the four concepts: ideological, military, economic, and political. Palpatine was such a student of those four concepts. He understood them perfectly and how to do that. He first establishes the political power, rising up to chancellor. He then gets a military created, and he gets control of all the military force. Then he gets the banking clan. So he has all the economics, and then all through this thing, he's manipulating the Senate, prejudices, and even as war goes on, trying to distance the Republic military from the Jedi themselves to make an ideological break between the Republic and the Jedi, so they get in preparation for Order 66. And it's like, I understand why no one in the universe saw what Palpatine was doing, because he was masterfully crafting everything at once and utilizing all the powers. And it's like, and when we come back to for the original trilogy, I can have a field day about how the powers failed Palpatine in the original trilogy.
I used to make fun of how Dooku like straight up told Obi-Wan essentially what was going on. But honestly, looking back at it, it's pretty plausible that nobody would have believed him. He didn't give him everything. Like, he didn't tell him who it was or anything like that. Because if he had said, like, Palpatine's the Sith Lord, it would have put a huge wrench in Palpatine's plans. Like, they would have at least been looking his way already. So, like, for him to come out and say, what if I told you that, like, it's all, like, fake? Like, this entire thing is a sham. Your first reaction would be like, you're fucking with, like, you're messing with me. That's not true. And he's like, no, like, the banks are in our pocket. We have this set up. We have that set up. And the guy who's in charge of it all is at the highest level of government, of your government. Everybody's in on it. Like, you would believe it, but you'd be like, damn, like, there's nothing we can do. Like it makes you ask, like Yoda and the Jedi Council, like, it's so infuriating how close they come to finding out what's really going on. Like, they find out that Dooku is the one that really commissioned the creation of the clone army. And they're like, the next natural question is, why would he do that? Why would he give us a clone army for us to fight them? And he's a Sith Lord and he has a master. Like, wouldn't the next logical thing be like, bro, we're like in deep trouble right now? And then, like, the whole Order 66, Protocol 66 chip thing that happened, like, between all
And
of that stuff, I'd be like,
that's why I always that's my favorite thing about the book. It's a Legends book, but Labyrinth of Evil, if you've read it,
fantastic.
you know,
Infinite sadness.
though it is infinite sadness. The core of the book, and me and some people, we always laugh about this. The core of the book is Palpatine calling and being like, "Hey, they're on to me. Can you come pick me up?"
Yeah. Mom, I'm scared.
Please. because that stuff starts coming to light and starts being uncovered. But it is it never have it hasn't felt so real than in the past 2-3 years when there is like real stuff happening, and then everyone's just like, yeah, but look over there. You know, like,
Can I be real with you?
no,
I watched Revenge of the Sith, and to get a little like serious, but not really. Like I'm laughing at it now, but like I was watching Revenge of the Sith the night that the whole January 6th stuff happened, and I remember getting to the part where Palpatine like the attempt on my life has left me scarred, and like he's giving a speech in front of every single senator that has given him like the post 9/11 equivalent to like all-time approval ratings through the roof. Like he just almost got assassinated by the crazy Jedi. Like he can do whatever he wants now. All he has to do now is declare himself an emperor. I remember watching that scene, the speech he was giving, along with like active attempts to overthrow the United States government, and I just started I almost had a panic attack. I was just like, bro, this is scary. Like I was just like, wow, I have never felt more punched in the gut by that line that Padme says, like where there are legitimately people that will cheer that shit on, and it's like, man, like that's how it goes. You go thinking that everything is okay. You go in all in on this person that you support and trust and believe in, and that is how your freedoms go away. And it's like you won't even realize it until a couple of years later, and then by then it'll be too late.
Rereading Bloodline last year gave me anxiety for sure.
I need to read that book so badly. I feel like it would become a new obsession.
It absolutely would. I read it when it first came out, and I was like, "Oh, this is really well written." And I read it again last year, and I was like, "Why is this happening now?"
Yeah, I read it during 2020, so that was a fun time. But I think
I couldn't. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, man. Go ahead.
No. I think one of the other things. So going off of Josh, but one of the things you said earlier on about a character you wanted to see, like a Caesar character. So you know, you have elements of the American Civil War and the prequels, but you also have the Roman Civil War, and you could assign different characters or different historical figures to different people, but you know, like the Jedi in a sense are Brutus and Anakin more so than everything else. But you look at obviously Palpatine is Caesar, Vader is Mark Antony, Obi-Wan is Cato, and go on. But like think about, you know, when you were saying about this, the attack on my life has left me scarred and deformed. But Brutus was an honorable man from Shakespeare.
Yeah, that's the speech that Mark Antony gave.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
So I think that you have elements of both, but like like Camilla was saying, Palpatine's like the scariest villain.
No, he's terrifying. He's the most effective. He's not just like, whenever somebody tells me that Palpatine, I don't like Palpatine because he's just like the evil maniacal blah blah blah. I'm like, bro, he's not just that. I promise you, he did everything he did is like the most winning streak ass villain I have ever seen. I'm like, bro, my man, at the end of every Clone Wars episode, Palpatine would literally sit there with a shit-eating grin. The audience is screaming like, he's smiling. Look at like the Tony Soprano when he sees his mom smiling at him when they're dragging him away. He's like, look, he's smiling and she's smiling. He's in on it. Like, that's literally me every time Palpatine. They literally like zoom the camera in on his face when everybody else leaves. He's just like, and you're just like, oh my god. And it's just like, he literally the most infuriating character, and he's like terrifyingly scary. Like,
and I just have to say thank you for the super chat. I found this whole experience to be enlightening. Same. This is why I love Palpatine as a villain. Like as to what we're speaking on right now is, some people say, oh, you know, he just like he was just such a perfect planner. Like it's to the point. No, I love the fact that all of it is always on the crest of falling apart.
Mhm.
Always. He just has a contingency plan for that. But all of it still, like you said, ends with him with just like this little. I don't even know how Ian McDermott plays this so well in live action, where you can look at his face and you can see like a smile in the very corner of his mouth on one side, like because he knows, and you're like, damn it, he knows,
Yeah,
god damn
he
it.
knows. Yep. And like I think, and they say like several times, it's both legends and canon, but they'll say like Palpatine is like as a senator and as an ambassador when he was younger, like in the legends, like he was this unassuming, nice guy. Nobody thought too much of him. In the Plagueis book, several senators tried to have him killed because they like they were just like, oh, you don't know anything about politics, do you? When in reality, he is the most like formidable person physically and mentally in the entire room. Like they say the reason that he got elected to the chancellorship in the first place was because people had like sympathy for him because Naboo was his home world.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that he was agreeable, like he was a guy that they felt they could walk over and stuff like that. And he kind of just is there while they just give him more and more. Like he came in at the worst possible time, because if you think about it, Palpatine has been chancellor. It's an 8-year term limit for being a supreme chancellor. You get reelected once. It's similar to the presidency that way. Like you're president for 4 years, you run for reelection, you win reelection, you serve another 4 years, then you step down. Palpatine got elected chancellor in 32 BBY. 10 years later, it's the beginning of Attack of the Clones. He's still chancellor. And it's probably because of the separatist crisis. They go, oh, like, we're worried that the Republic is going to fall apart. We're worried that like more and more people are going to leave, and Palpatine is one of the only like stable forces that can keep everybody here. So let's keep him here until this blows over. And then when that probably begins to die down, oh, the Clone Wars started. Oh no, we need a leader that can help us out and be there for us and be that stalwart. Oh no, the Jedi overthrew the Republic and Palpatine was horribly scarred. Let's just make him the emperor. Like, you know, it's just like, it's like layers on layers. And it's like, he's just there to take the rewards. And it's like, damn, like he didn't really have to like give any rousing speech. Like he didn't have to really do anything in a public eye. Like all he had to really do was just keep the act up, and he won. Like he won. Like even if Anakin had died, Palpatine would have won. Like you're like literally, oh, like, and I love how Mace Windu was like one of the only people he was like legitimately scared. Like oh shit, this dude just rolled into my office. Like oh shit.
I think one of the things so two things. One of the most terrifying instances of Palpatine to me is not when he's, shocking Luke in Return of the Jedi. It's not when he's manipulating Anakin in Revenge of the Sith. It's in the episode Pursuit of Peace from Clone Wars. Shout out to Camilla. Where after Padme gives her speech and wrests the boat away from the Senate, Palpatine is sitting in his office with his whipping boy Masameda, and is like, isn't it remarkable that one can have all the power in the galaxy, and yet the words of a single senator can sway the thoughts of millions? For now, we must adhere to the principles of our democracy. We must let the wheels of the Senate turn.
Yeah, because Masameda's like, yo, so what are we going to do about it? Like, this was supposed to work. And Palpatine's like, nah, let's just let him have this victory. I'm like, oh, shit, man. Oh, shit.
Masameda is Benny from The Mummy, where he's like, it's better to be at the right hand of the devil than in his path. Like, he doesn't do anything. He doesn't help. He's just like, hey man, I'll get you some coffee. Let me check your calendar for you.
He
give
is
me
the
a
character I
planet
hate
eventually.
Most. He is the character I hate most in all of Star Wars.
Yeah, but like, I don't. It's just really funny to me because
I need a short story just of Palpatine bringing Masamune into his fold, and like, how did that go down? There's like Masamune just go like, oh, that's your plan. Okay, I'm in.
I have a headcanon. I have a headcanon that he like walked in on Palpatine doing some really evil stuff, and Palpatine looked at him, and Masamune was like, "Bro, I won't say a fucking word. Like you did not. Like, bro, you need help. Like I'll help you. Like I didn't see shit. Like I truly think that Masamune just woke up one day and was like, oh shit, I think he's the Sith Lord, and just didn't say anything. Like I think Palpatine was just like, okay, cool. He's on my side. You're just like, oh wow.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's exactly how it went down. He just didn't even have to say anything to him. Masamune was just like,
And also think about the move of Palpatine of having Anakin become his proxy on the Jedi Council, to where he both played Anakin and the Jedi, and Anakin could not ever become part of the council if he's acting as someone else's proxy. You know what I mean? Like he basically said, you will never have a seat at the table because you're taking my seat at this table. But at the same, so you will never have a vote, and you will never be. But you're here, and this is what you thought you wanted. And he gives everyone exactly what they think they want, but he gives them nothing at all, and it's disturbing and crazy.
Because he
Anakin
knew
just
that
wanted
he
to
knew,
be in the room where it happened.
Yeah,
there you go. Palpatine knew.
Anakin's a himbo, and he's just like, I'm just trying to get in there. And he's like, but do you understand like the job or what the requirements or any of that? I don't know, man. It's just like all the cool people are there. All right, I'll get you in there.
and I don't care what anybody says. His reaction to finding out he wasn't on the council not only proves that he shouldn't have been on it, but it also proves that like he had no idea what the hell he was doing. Because it's like, bro, did you honestly think that you were gonna be a literal representation of the Chancellor and we were gonna give you the position of Master? Like, I see why Mace Windu shot arrows at him. Like, no, I'm not gonna do that for you. And I also see why Palpatine made Anakin the one to do it, because he, by the end of the Clone Wars, Palpatine's like, oh, I found my next apprentice. Probably at the beginning of the Clone Wars, Palpatine has already decided, like, oh yeah, when the time is right, Dooku's gonna get moved out the way because he's old, and Anakin is like literally the chosen one in terms of potential. I'm going to use him, and so every single jab he poked at the Jedi Council was with Anakin's finger. So it's like he's just getting them more increasingly like wary of Anakin.
Oh, I
and thereby
encourage you to look into the special features for the Reiko Hardin arc on the Clone Wars. All of it is like, all of this, it's all told from Obi-Wan's perspective, but 100% of this was a Palpatine plot to test Anakin to see if he's ready to turn. And they test him, and he's like, he's not ready yet. He's like, he's getting there. He's not golden brown yet. We're just gonna pop him back in the oven.
Well, that makes sense then, because when he duels Dooku, when Palpatine's in the room with him, you can tell that Anakin has gotten better fighting him over the last several years battling Dooku. Like, they make it seem like in episode 3 that the last time they fought was episode 2, but they fought like 5 or 6 times between then. But like, you can tell that is the last time Dooku's going to be able to fight Anakin and get out of it successfully, because Anakin is overpowering him at every step of the way. Like, Dooku's still the more probably technically sound, because Dooku's a legendary fighter, but he's old, and like Anakin's in his prime now, and Anakin is utilizing his anger a lot more, and you can tell by the look on Palpatine's face that could have been the moment where he goes, good, Anakin, kill him. Like, that was going to be the moment. Like, I think once the Magna Guards and all that, like Dooku's henchmen came in and helped.
Well, it's Obi-Wan. I mean, the only thing that happened, I felt very strongly Anakin would have turned that day, but Obi-Wan's like, something's up. I'm gonna go check on him. I'm gonna go check on him, and he's like, stop it, knock it off. Yeah. But hey, no, bro, Anakin walks in and he's like, you should have given up while you were still alive, Dooku. And you're like, oh, that's cold.
Yeah. Yeah. But that makes sense. Even without having seen any of the special features, I can kind of tell based on the episode, like, oh yeah, that's definitely what he was setting up for. It was a test for Anakin to see how far he was along, and I think Palpatine still considered it a success because he was like, oh, we're pretty damn close to that point though. Like it's like checking it and you're like, oh yeah, golden brown, but I like my edges a little crispy. And it's like, all right, cool.
Okay.
But guys, I have to step away. I'm doing a live reaction to the season finale of the Book of Boba Fett. It has been absolutely ecstatic talking with all of you. I'm sorry I have to cut it short for me. Please continue talking, and I'll definitely come back and listen to it. But this has been an absolute blast, and I thank you guys for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. Great topic, great conversation. Go ahead and plug your socials one last time, and then we'll see you in the line.
Sure. Well, again, guys, I am Josh. My alias is Mesa Windu. It's a running joke from my friend. He can't stop calling him that. He calls him Mesa Windu, and I'm like, his name is Mace Windu, and he's like Mesa Windu, and I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna make that my name, and it stuck. You guys can follow me on YouTube, TikTok, and Twitter. It is all the same @ I'm trying to make it easy for everybody, not changing it everywhere I go. But if you guys want to see more of my stuff, you feel free to. Please enjoy the rest of the podcast. I know I will. All right, guys.
All right.
Peace
Have
out.
a good one,
Take
buddy.
care. Have a good week.
Okay. I have a question, and it's going to Beth, but obviously anybody can answer because I don't have an answer for this myself. Okay. What historical figure from any time period would you assert to Obi-Wan?
Ooh, that's a great question. That is a great question. I mean, obviously Jesus, but we can't go there. That's I don't want to go that far. I would, I'm gonna have to think about that. That's a really good question because I think there are so many aspects and facets of his personality that you could play out in like many different situations and in many different eras of history. I'm gonna get back to you on that. Maybe I'll make a video, Chris. That's a great question.
Okay.
Cool.
Awesome. No, I appreciate. Who Luke Podwin says maybe JFK or for Anakin. That's interesting. But now I'm excited to see a lot more of your guys' thoughts on this stuff. But yeah, I mean we are running along. I gotta ask though, any additional or final thoughts if we can kind of go around and get
just quickly. The whole putting Anakin on the council is a huge breach of separation of powers on the chancellor, and because at that point we gotta say that the Jedi are a part of the Republic government. They are a branch. They're supposed to be separate, but Anakin, the way the Palpatine they worked with the Republican, Palpatine effortlessly just breaches that separation that's supposed to be there in the branches, and the Jedi just allow it. I mean,
but I have thoughts on that. You know why they allowed it?
Because they're trying to suss Palpatine out.
No, I think Lena So. I think Lena So is an actual pure human, and they believe that that's possible still. And I think a lot of the stuff is like, remember the last crisis we had with the Nile and Lena So and how she guided us through that whole problematic time period. Maybe this Palpatine guy is like the next Lena So. And he was not.
I mean, we'll see. I feel like the next time an election comes around, Senator Toombs is going to try and wrest control of the Senate from Chancellor. So, but I think.
Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. So one of the things that Palpatine is a master at is the rally around the flag tactic. And if you don't, so I was in international relations major, so I learned about this a lot. So pretty much it's just the political leaders inciting war or saying like we need to go to war as a way to boost their popularity and keep their power. So when Josh was alluding to, like the Phantom Menace, so yeah, the Trade Federation, okay, that's how Palpatine got his power. And then when his term had expired, I wonder if they treated it like, okay, he finished Valorum's term and then he was able to run for his own first term and then he had a second. I that's at least what in my head is how he got to 10 years. Beth, you look like you have something on that.
I do. I only, again, weird obsessive research. So he was able to he a vice president basically ran for his own term, and then they kept voting additional emergency powers.
Okay.
Due to the ongoing Clone War crisis, so
he
truly was a master at playing all the sides.
Yeah. So then, using those emergency powers, he rallied around the flag, like, "Hey, here's a new crisis. I can get us through it." And they're like, "Yeah. 3 years later, hey, are you going to give up those powers? I will definitely do that. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. Love my boy Palps.
Such a great villain. God, such a great villain.
He is the scariest villain because he is, besides all the Force stuff, he is the most real villain in any of the media that we can get.
Yeah. All of the physical prowess stuff was the least of his power. That was the smallest showing of his power, which is crazy. But even the book Plagueis is not canon, but I highly recommend everyone reads it because the book Plagueis is just a Palpatine origin story,
and I love it so much.
And when it gets to the end. And you realize he's been playing Plagueis this whole time. God, and you see it. You know what I mean? It's not. It's one of those things where you reread it and you see all of the ways that it was intentionally turned. You're like, this guy was a monster. I mean, my favorite thing from that book is Palpatine's father's confession of when you were a baby and I held you for the first time, you looked at me with eyes that said, I want to kill you. He's like, I've never thought you were human. And he was right the entire time. It was just crazy. But yeah, when I make But Beth, I feel like you've been quiet. You have any more thoughts on?
On Palpatine, on Plagueis? Oh my god. I mean, lots on Plagueis on the financial side, but I guess just as far as Palpatine as a villain, the thing that makes him truly terrifying is the fact that he really did set up a lose-lose situation. He had full control of not only the situation but the narrative. And I think when I'm trying to think of the best example of that is obviously you have the clone army versus the droid army. Both of them lack any sort of rights in the Galactic Republic via the rights of sentience clause. But the problem is either way you look at the narrative, either okay, the separatists are horrible, they're sending these war machines to kill people, so the separatists are horrible, or you look at it and you're like, oh my god, the Republic's horrible, they're sending these people off to be killed by machines. And so it's the way that he's able to craft that narrative is terrifying, and I think that's really what makes him just this incredible mastermind.
I mean, a lot of people take over the media first.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Twitter.
Yeah. Okay. So, final thoughts. We'll go around and we'll close this out. But I definitely want to do this again for the original trilogy, and then we'll do it a third time for the sequel trilogy, and perhaps a fourth time for the High Republic. If y'all are interested in it, but it's a lot more wholesome. At least for now, but we're going down some
wholesome.
Well, I mean,
wholesome.
I have thoughts about the whole Great Works, but
yeah. So let's get your final thoughts on anything that we might have missed as far as the historical parallels with prequels. And then once again, where we can find y'all and your amazing content. And I'll start with Pat.
Okay, final thoughts is that the prequels is you're watching from Anakin's perspective how someone falls into the pits and traps of nationalism, and that's the whole story there, and it's sad.
It's sad, but he also straight up said that to Padme in episode 2.
Yeah.
Like they should be made to understand. By who? He's like, I was kidding. That's a joke.
Was it?
Good joke. It's a great joke, even.
So where you can find me, I'm on TikTok. That's basically where I am at. I tried to get on Twitter, but I have no idea how to navigate that platform. So TikTok, and you can find me again at Saint Pat of Starfleet. That's there's a Saint st.pat _ of Starfleet, all one word.
Awesome. I appreciate you coming out. Saint Pat is the one that did my profile picture. He does awesome artwork. So if you are looking for someone amazing to commission some work from, reach out to Saint Pat and check out his stuff. And yes, we will definitely be doing this more. And then how about you, Chris?
You can find me at on TikTok, Twitch, and Instagram at Star Wars Lawyer, and on Twitter at Chris KRIS _SWL. In terms of anything, I think the prequel trilogy they're a cautionary tale in how if you ignore the rumblings of fascism in a society because you are trying to give up, you are trying to obtain security in lieu of freedom, then any democracy will fall, no matter how old, no matter how secure.
Damn. Yes, thank you. You're making me feel sad now.
Chills.
All who gain
so like myself personally, I work in the financial industry. And then someone's like, yeah, you got to watch that movie, The Big Short. And I watched it and I was just sad and cold. And like, yeah, it's about right.
Remember back to your earliest teachings, Chaco. All who gain power are afraid to lose it. Indeed.
Also, people, you have to stop taking Palpatine quotes about the Jedi and thinking that they're true.
Oh,
I just please, I don't know, man. Anyways, last but certainly not least, Beth, love your content so much. Yeah, anything we missed?
First of all the love right back at you guys. This has been such a phenomenal discussion. I would say, as far as, I don't think there's anything we've missed, but I just think, especially in discussing this even more, I think it is fascinating how the prequels they're so reflective of the early 2000s, but also the issues that we are still dealing with today. And I think that is something that's inherently unique about the prequels, because I think sometimes, like, the ideology of the original trilogy is very different as far as you see, like, who the villains are, and the ideology of obviously the sequels is very different. But it's a little bit disturbing how much that transfers over a large period of time in regards to the prequels. So those are my final thoughts. That is it. And you can find me at mara.j.skywalker, just on TikTok right now. And yeah. Oh, and also again, the Open Circle Fleet with Camilla, who is the best half. I don't know why I'm gesturing off that side of the screen, but
awesome, people. I love it. But like I said, it's almost like Palpatine had vested interest in discrediting the Jedi. And the craziest part about that is it still works to the fans. Like there are Anakin fans that I talk to on a daily basis that scare the crap out of me, because you don't know that killing children is a bad idea. And you don't know that it's not it's not Padme's fault. Like the one person who loved him regardless and wanted to help and help facilitate him in every way possible. And you're like, oh no, she was the bad one, not the guy doing it.
No.
I don't know.
Propaganda is so
media literacy is dead.
real. It breaks the
Yeah.
fourth wall.
No
Yeah.
more victim blaming in 2022 for Padme. Done. Done.
Yeah, I did it as a joke, but the amount of people like who didn't know it's a joke. So 2022, let's normalize not doing it was a joke.
Mhm.
because not everyone is capable of handling jokes apparently.
Shout out to Camilla the Amidalin leading the charge against Padme slander.
Yes.
No
Our
more
Padme
Padme
queen.
slander 2022. Also pre-order your copy of Queen's Hope. Also it's Black History Month, so do a black guy a solid and go watch Chris's brother's movie Life Ain't Like the Movies. So go check that out. Anyhow, I want to thank everyone in the chat who's still with us. This has been I've learned so much. I have so much stuff I need to research. I have not been a history buff myself, but I as someone that loves writing, like you have to, like, they go hand in hand because this is how people work. It's not new. It's not a mystery. It is history. So yeah,
All
pay
it takes
attention to it.
Tacos, find the one topic that you like, and
Yep.
it's a landslide.
I know, that's why I don't do it. I'm afraid because I know myself and I know my levels of obsession. You think I know a lot about Star Wars? This is how I am in anything I'm interested in, you know. But anyhow, thank you, everyone. Love this community. Y'all are amazing. I will say it. Yes, we talk about the lows of the Star Wars community and how toxic it can be, but the highs are higher than any community, bar none. Like it's not even close. So if you made it to the good part of Star Wars, stay.
Mhm.
They're all the best. Anyways, thank you so much. Love and appreciate you all.